Are you ready for another adventure? If you travel to Ireland, odds are you will visit Dublin. Dublin is the capital and the heart of the country for tourists. It is certainly the biggest city, so it is no surprise it has some of the best destinations to visit. In this video, I want to show you how a little settlement became the country's capital and some of the best places you can visit, and show you why I love to explore this vibrant city. For the past 40 years, I have traveled all around the world and I have seen cities transform from simple towns to modern marvels. Dublin faces a unique challenge of modernizing while still preserving its rich cultural heritage. It is hard to put into one video the thousands of years of history, but I will try to summarize the history of this ancient city. Then, in this first video, I will try to share with you some of the best places to explore in the city center. You will be amazed at how much there is to explore. Let's start our journey 6,000 years ago when local tribes lived around Dublin Bay. This area has always had people living in it. Fast forward to 140 AD, and we find the first reference to this settlement on a map by a cartographer named Ptolemy, who called it Ablana Polis. Then, in 841, the Vikings invaded and established a fortified base called Dublin. Over time, this name evolved into Dublin. Despite many attacks by native Irish trying to expel the Vikings, they controlled the town for about 300 years until the Norman invasion of Ireland in 1169. 3 years before the invasion, Rory O'Connor became the High King of Ireland, ruling from 1166 to 1198. Sadly, he was the last High King of Ireland. During his reign, Dermot MacMurrough, the King of Leinster, enlisted the help of Richard Strongbow declared to reclaim his kingdom, thus starting the Norman invasion of Ireland. MacMurrough regained his kingdom but at a high price for Ireland. Back to Dublin. After MacMurrough died, Strongbow took control and declared himself King of Leinster. Dublin Castle was built in 1204 and became the centre of power in Ireland. The county of Dublin was established around 1171 and became the barony of Dublin in 1840. Only recently, in 2001, was the name officially changed to the city of Dublin, in the county of Dublin. It seems to be a trend to name the capital the same as the county or state, doesn't it? I wonder why that is. As you can see, Dublin's history is thousands of years long. There has been a settlement here for over 6,000 years, and I wanted to give you a glimpse of that rich history so you understand how the culture was formed from a mix of different origins into what is considered modern Irish. Now let's focus on the 20th century onwards because, in that relatively short period, the city has evolved faster than ever before. During the 19th and 20th centuries, the city experienced population booms followed by recessions, so it didn't grow all at once or even consistently. With more people came the need for more housing, services, streets, and shops. In the 73 years between 1837 and 1910, the city expanded well beyond the old Viking walls. The inner city still had many slums, and living conditions were far from good. There were few parks, and even these were not open to the public. The Great Famine struck Ireland between 1845 and 1852, worsening the situation as people moved from rural areas to the city in search of food. People were starving, and the English government didn't do much to help. Dublin was poor, overcrowded, and unsanitary. Something had to be done. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, a transformation began. Slums were cleared to make way for buildings and housing developments, and parks were created, shaping the modern Dublin we see today. Despite the turmoil of the early 1900s, Dublin expanded. With the slums gone, new sewer systems in place, new legislation, and new urban planning committees, the city was reimagined. Lord Ivy, from the Guinness family, created some of the iconic parks we see today, like Ivy Gardens. He wanted parks for all to enjoy. This Dublin native, born in 1847, took over the brewery at 20 years old, making it extremely successful and becoming the richest man in Ireland at the time. But the Guinness story is for another video. Dublin grew and prospered tremendously over the next 100 years, but tragedy struck again with the Great Recession of 2008. With the financial market crash, Ireland was hit hard. Property prices plummeted, and many construction and expansion projects were halted. It wasn't until 2017 that Dublin bounced back, and by the end of the decade, it was close to full development. This created new problems. The demand for housing led to the redevelopment of areas like Ballymun and the Docklands. In 2024, Dublin faces a major housing shortage, affecting even the surrounding areas. Anywhere within commuting distance from Dublin is now in high demand. Even during the 2019 pandemic, rent in Dublin remained considerably higher than in the rest of the country. Well, that is a very brief history of how Dublin came to be, so now, let's take a look at some of my favorite places to explore, as well as some of the best places to visit when coming to Dublin. To get around Dublin, especially the city centre, bonus tip is to get a Leap card, which is your public transport card. The easiest option is to get one in a Londis convenience store. With your card, you can use the Lewis tram system, the Dart trains, as well as the almost 200 bus services in the city. Bonus tip, you can take the Dart all the way north to County Meath and all the way south to County Wicklow, through some of the most scenic tracks in the country. Let's start our tour by what has been the heart of the city for thousands of years, the River Liffey. Here, you will find some of the most iconic monuments and buildings in the country. You can also take boat tours in the river and enjoy the beautiful scenery, even over a romantic dinner. Start your day with Irish breakfast, a feast of flavors and smells. It usually includes bacon, sausages, baked beans in tomato sauce, eggs, mushrooms, grilled tomatoes, potatoes or hash browns, black and white pudding, which are pork products, toast, and butter. You can wash it down with some tea or coffee or, if you're Irish, a pint of your favorite beer. You will need all that energy to explore the city centre. Along the river, you will see the Custom House. This neoclassical building in the heart of the Docklands is an architectural masterpiece. This was the headquarters of the Commissioners of Custom. It was set on fire during the War of Independence, but then it was restored and sits now as a reminder of many historical events. You can visit the exhibition at the visitor center or take a guided tour. If you walk along the river, you will come upon the Famine Memorial, a set of statues that remind us of that very dark chapter in Irish history, the Great Famine. This shows the resilience of the Irish spirit, and the story of survival and loss that is still felt in the hearts of the people today. A bit further along, you will see the Jeanie Johnston ship, a replica of the historic ship and a museum, anchored on the docks. 1 million people fled Ireland during the famine, and the Jeanie Johnston was responsible for transporting 2,500 of these to North America. Take the tour and step back in time, maybe you will understand how the passengers felt on the treacherous voyage in the hope of a better life. If you spot a glass building that seems to be more tilted than the famous Tower of Pisa, don't be alarmed. This is the Royal Convention Centre Dublin. It was designed by Kevin Roche and opened in 2010. It is the first carbon-neutral convention center in the world, due to using low-carbon cement and offsetting what was unavoidable with carbon credits, and its heating and cooling systems are very environmentally friendly. The interior is even more impressive than the slanted exterior. Head over to the famous O'Connell Street and you will see some of the many statues that adorn the streets. This street in itself is interesting. Formerly called Sackville Street, it was renamed after Daniel O'Connell, a political leader who supported the Catholics, when his statue was unveiled. If you look closely, you can see bullet holes from the 1916 Easter Rising on the statue. Curiously, every time I go by, there is a seagull sitting on his head, enjoying the view, perhaps wondering what he is staring at. Another place you will find bullet holes is in the walls of the General Post Office further down the street. It is another beautiful building, with a lot of history in the walls. The bridge was also named after him when it was rebuilt in 1882. In the middle of this street, you will find the Spire of Dublin. This is probably the most famous, yet most mocked monument in the city. It stands 150 meters tall and it celebrates the new millennium. It has quite a collection of nicknames, such as the spike, the binge syringe, the stiletto in the ghetto, the nail in the pail, the pin in the bin, and so on. As you can see, it is not very popular with the locals, probably because it cost a few $1 million at the time and it does not match the architecture of the city. There are 5 other statues on this street. William Smith O'Brien, a leader of the unsuccessful rebellion of 1848. His statue was the first monument erected in Dublin to celebrate someone who had rebelled against the British. Sir John Gray, the owner of the strongly national Freeman's Journal newspaper. Father Theobald Matthew, leader of the Irish temperance movement. James Larkin, arms open, motioning for everyone to rise up. Big Jim was a workers' rights advocate. The inscription on the statue has one of his most famous quotes, "The great appear great because we are on our knees. Let us rise." At the top of O'Connell Street, you will find Charles Stewart Parnell, revered nationalist political leader. The monument has an inscription that reads, "No man has a right to fix the boundary to the march of a nation. To say to his country, thus far shalt thou go and no further." If you live in Dublin, you will eventually hear that the statue was constructed to point to the Rotunda Hospital, formerly Dublin's main maternity hospital. The joke is that he was telling the Irish nation to outbreed their enemies. I guess you have to be Irish to get the humor. I could spend a whole video or 3 talking about all the statues and monuments just in the city centre, and I might not have time to cover them all, but I could not move on without talking about the famous statue of Molly Malone on Suffolk Street, outside the Tourist Information Office. At some point, someone started the rumour that it was good luck to rub her breasts. Since then, the statue has been polished to a shine in that area, enraging the locals and the feminists to no end. An old folk song tells of a woman who sold fish and mussels out of her cart in the streets of Dublin and died young of a fever. In the 20th century, the legend grew and people said it was based on a woman who lived in the 17th century. Now, there is no evidence she ever existed, but in 1988, the Dublin Millennium Commission created the statue and declared the 13th of June, Molly Malone Day, linking the legend to Mary Malone who died on the 13th of June 1699, despite not having any concrete proof the song was about such a woman or that it was even an Irish folk song, since the first recorded version of it was from 1876 and authored by a Scottish artist. In any case, visit, take a picture, but please don't rub her breasts. Grafton Street is a must. This is now a pedestrian street that leads from St. Stephen's Green in the St. Stephen's Green shopping centre to Trinity College Green. This is a lot to explore, so start in St. Stephen's Green, a lovely park with water features, swans and flowers, where you can spend some of the calories from the Irish breakfast you had earlier. Explore the shopping centre, which is one of the most beautiful buildings in the area, then walk down Grafton Street. There is so much to explore here that you will definitely spend at least half a day walking. Bonus tip, if you find Ann Street off Grafton Street, walk all the way to the end, and there, hidden among the buildings, is the amazing St. Anne's Church. I found it by accident, and if you want to see a more detailed tour of it, check out the video on this church. This was the first church in Dublin, built in 1707. The author of Dracula, Bram Stoker, was married here, as well as Wolfe Tone. Back to the Liffey through the many alleyways and small streets. There are 16 bridges along the river, and the newest of these is the Samuel Beckett Bridge. This is a lovely work of art built in 2009. It is particularly beautiful, lit up at night. There are several famous footbridges, but the most romantic is the Liffey Bridge. The Millennium Bridge was built in 1999 and it is also illuminated at night. There is also the Sean O'Casey Bridge, built in 2005. Even James Joyce has a bridge named after him. In case you haven't noticed, cars are very impractical here in the city centre, so I suggest you walk or, at best, take the bus or Lewis. Now, one destination that, if you're over 18, you should not miss, is the Guinness Storehouse. The Guinness Brewery was founded in 1759 and it has been associated with Ireland ever since. I think one of the first things that come to mind when you talk about Ireland is Guinness Stout beer. Take the tour of the storehouse, learn of the history, sample the beer and end your visit in the Sky Bar, with an amazing view of the city centre, while enjoying a few pints. Once you are done, bought some souvenirs, and feel positively tipsy, it is time for happy hour, and believe me, the Irish know all about this. In most small Irish towns and villages, you might not have a store, but you will have at least a pub or two. So let's head over to the best part of Dublin at night. The most famous part, of course, is Temple Bar. This area of the city comes alive at happy hour and goes well into the night. If you like pub hopping, this is the place for you. There are dozens of pubs, public walkways and restaurants that serve good food and even better beer. My personal favourite for Irish stew is the Keys Irish Restaurant. If you visit, I suggest the Guinness stew, Irish stew or the shepherd's pie, all with a side of Guinness, of course, unless you are more of an Irish whiskey kind of person. Whichever is your choice, you are in for a treat. Downstairs, much like in many other pubs, you will enjoy your drink of choice and traditional Irish music, which, even if you have never heard it before, you will soon be singing and dancing to. As I said, the Irish know how to party and you will be swept into the spirit of the people, who are celebrating being Irish, a good pint, and to whatever else they can think of as an excuse to raise a glass. Dublin has much more to offer. This was just a glimpse at what awaits you in the vibrant centre of this amazing city, which over 2 million people call home. From the modern cityscape to the colourful nightlife, there is something for everyone to enjoy. Share your thoughts on Dublin's city centre in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing adventures, and check out the community tab, where I post updates and other fun things. You should also reach out in my socials, links on the screen and in the description, and maybe say hi, or share your thoughts. Now, if you like Dublin city centre, then you will love Dun Laoghaire, so click here to watch that video next. Thank you for joining me on this exciting exploration, and I'll see you in the next one.